So hi, so I'm Mr. Niemis, and if you're watching this, it means that this is most likely your first video of mine that you're watching. Because the entire point of this video is to explain to you how my style is a little bit different than something you're probably used to. So I'm going to take you through just kind of how it all works. So for the rest of the year, hopefully you're very comfortable and you'll get really used to it. But the whole point of this is just kind of exposing you to my style. So my style I call flipped in class with choice. That's how I do my teaching. So the reality is you can kind of call it whatever you like. This is just my title and hopefully you'll see why. So let me explain to you how it works. So what most teachers do, or a lot of teachers do, is they stand up in front of the class, kind of like I'm doing now, only they'll be in front of the class and they'll teach and they'll be on the board. And I'm sure you're used to this style of teaching where you take notes and so on and so forth, okay? I will never do this in class. I will never stand in front of you. I will never write on the board and have you take notes or stand in a PowerPoint. This guy you see here will never be me. Instead, when there's a time where I need to give you a lot of information, like we always have to do in school, I'll be more this guy. So what I mean by that is I'll be the guy walking around, assisting you, talking to you, have individual conversations with you. And most of the time, you'll be learning on a computer, iPad, phone, something. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you kind of how this all works, but this is really what you're going to see in this classroom when you have to learn new material as opposed to me in front of the class. So here's how it works. So the first thing I always do is I give you what you need to know first. I call it backwards planning. So for example, what I'll say is something along the lines of, when you walk into class tomorrow, make sure that you are able to answer this question. What happens to an object when an unbalanced force acts on it? Or what are the chambers of the human heart? So I tell you just what you need to know when you walk into class the very next day. And that's really important because you can look and see, okay, what is the finish line? Because that will determine ultimately what path you take to get to that finish line. And that's kind of the phrase I use all the time, is I give you the finish line, and how you get there is completely up to you. Because as my job as a teacher, I want to make sure you know the material. But I know everyone learns differently, so I want to give you those options to learn however you want to learn. So then what happens is you read through the questions and you say, all right, I know this stuff, I don't know this stuff. You basically assess of what you already know, and then you decide how you want to get to make sure you can answer the rest of those questions, or all the questions, depending on what you know. So here's the normal, we'll say, lineup of what I usually give you. I almost always give you a flip video like I'm doing right now. So I give you a lesson where I'm in front of the class and I have my smartboard and I teach, which is something that I know a lot of people are used to, so that's why I give that to you. So it's a very normal way of teaching, only instead of it being in front of the class, I make a video of it. So you basically have the normal teacher in front of the class, but it's a video. So you have that, and a lot of people use that as the resource because that's usually exactly what you need to know, because I made it myself. But with that, I also give you the option of notes or no notes. And this is something I do for my class. I know a lot of teachers don't do this, so I can't speak for anybody else, but for my class, the reason I do this is because the whole point is I want you to come in the next day with the knowledge. And just because you write something down in your notebook doesn't necessarily mean you know it. So as you're going through the lesson or whatever, some people choose to take notes, and honestly a lot of people do choose to take notes because it helps them remember and they get something to study from. But if I'm giving you something in the video that you already know, then don't take any notes, okay? There's no reason to write something down that you already know. Don't waste your time. But along with the flip video, I usually give you some other YouTube videos that are way better, I guess, than mine as far as animated and you know, all the bells and whistles, because this is not a very exciting video. Okay, I know that, but it gives you what you need to know. So I give you other YouTube videos. I know some people like to read as opposed to watch videos, so I try to give you textbook pages or articles to read. A lot of times I give you online sites that you can kind of explore on your own if that's more your style of learning, kind of discovering on your own. Sometimes I'll give you options that you can just at your seat explore, especially with physics. If you're learning about gravity as opposed to watching my video about gravity, I'll give you some options and things at your seat that you can actually just test out yourself. And then I try to always give you some sort of online game or quiz or something so you can assess where you're at. And I'm sure I'll give you other stuff too, but these are like the main things I always give you. And again, the whole point of it is you're not going to be able to do all this in one class period. So you decide how you like to learn best. Some people like to watch the video, take some notes, then take a quiz. Some people start off with a quiz to see what they already know, and then they go to the video to figure out whatever they don't know. Some people like to read about it first, and then they do the online exploration. Like, you're going to see that in any given class period, everyone's doing something different, because that's kind of the whole point, is that you learn however you want to learn. Okay? So usually in a given class period, you'll go through and you'll watch the video and you'll take your notes, and then you'll be like, okay, I did it, so now what? So again, this is where you make your decision. You have some options. You have to really say, okay, do I really understand what I just wrote down, what I just learned? Because if you just need some more practice, then what I'd say is, as I said, take the quiz, see where you're at. Or watch one of the other videos so you can hear it a different way. Or rewatch a part of it if it's a confusing part. But if you're sitting there and you're like, nope, I get all these questions, no problem, I always give you an option that I call go deeper, which is something related to the topic that allows you to go to a higher level, in case you're interested in going a little bit deeper with this. So you're going to see that there's never a time in my class where you're just done. And hopefully there's never a time where you're bored, because you're always doing something that's exactly what you need to do to help you best understand the material. All right, so you watch the video or do whatever, you went deeper. Then what happens is I always phrase my questions, almost always. By the time you come in the next day, you make sure you understand it. And to me, that's really important, because if you're somebody who really wants to take their time and write really good notes and draw pictures and rewatch stuff, I don't ever want you to feel rushed. So you always have the option at home to go home, like this guy over here, who's pretty pumped that he gets to go home and do some stuff. Okay, that's pretty much the only homework I give you in this class, usually, is just, hey, if you need to finish up anything to make sure you know the material, you go home and you finish it up. So that's why you have this option at home, because all the videos, all the links, all that stuff is available at home, just in case you need to finish anything up. All right, and then what happens is you come in the very next day of class, and when you come in the next day of class, I almost always check just to see if you got those questions that I said, hey, when you come into class, make sure you check, or make sure you know them. So I'll give you like a mini quiz, or I'll have you draw a picture, or I'll have you come up in front of the class and just tell the class the main ideas from yesterday's lesson, or I'll just do a lab that you need to know the stuff from yesterday in order to succeed, because I just have to obviously make sure that you get what the things you're supposed to get. So that's what I usually do in the beginning of class for the first 5 or so minutes. And then we move on to like a normal class. So this whole video thing I'm talking about right now, this only happens maybe once a week, you know, because this is just me giving you the information, and then we have labs and activities and worksheets and practice, or, you know, all the normal class stuff that we usually do, that you use the knowledge you gained from the flip lesson. So you can be successful in class. And this might take a few days, or depending on the topic. So that's pretty much how that all works out. And then I give lots and lots and lots of quizzes. So I don't give a lot of homework, but I give lots of quizzes, because I'm always just checking to make sure what you know, and I don't ever want you to fall behind. So what'll happen is, usually sometime later on that week, a few days later, I'll give you an official quiz on that material. So I teach the material, you come the next day, I give you a mini check just to make sure you're good, and then I give you a final check after we've done the labs and activities in the lesson and the quiz. And what's really good about that is that you have all those resources, again, in case you ever forgot anything. And this is important too, if you're ever absent, at least in my class, I still expect you to take the quiz, because you had all the resources. You had all the videos and everything too. So you have everything you need at home in order to be successful. And that's pretty much the guidelines of a normal section in my class. So if I had to recap it for you, I give you what you need to know. Then you decide how you want to learn it, and then you learn it in class. And as you're learning, I don't know if I said this or not, but I will be walking around helping, assisting, so on and so forth. And then you come in the next day, I check to make sure you got it, and then we do our labs, our activities, so on and so forth. And then I give you a little mini quiz. And then we start over and do the next topic. And that's kind of how things work. So in the next couple videos on this playlist, you're going to see that I talk about why I do it, like why I decide this style over the other style. So I go over all the benefits I think that you can see from it, the big ones, the small ones. But then in another video, I also have the challenges, because I know this is new and different for some people, and you're going to see that there's some difficulties that come along with this in the beginning. But I promise you that as the time goes on, it will get easier. So that's what I got for you. I think that you're going to enjoy it. I really do. I think that it's going to be really beneficial, this style, to you. And as always, if you have any questions about this or anything else, please make sure you ask me.